The offer made in this case, I've never heard in my 25 years as a defense lawyer. This is the offer made by the DA's office.
And that is to Adam Foss.
To Adam Foss.
Got it.
I wanted to have a little discussion about who exactly brought the Jonathan Majors case into a courtroom, because you have to realize these are misdemeanor charges. It is unusual that these types of charges will go to trial, and this thing went to trial. But I think something is going on in the Manhattan DA's office. Since it was taken over by Alvin Bragg, there appears to be a difference in policy, and you can see that in 3 different cases. Interestingly enough, Priya Chaudhry, the attorney for Jonathan Majors, defense attorney, did a pretty exhaustive interview with Roland Martin. She could not talk at all about the Majors case because there's a gag order. So everything that you hear her referring to in this case is not referring to the Majors case. It's referring to the case of Adam Foss, who was acquitted on November 3rd. And something is going on with this office, I think, with the Manhattan DA's office. As I sat in court last week, 2 prosecutors you could see, 2 assistant DAs, Michael Perez and Kelly Galloway, were arguing the case. The reason I say that I think there's something broader going on is that the evidence in the Majors case doesn't add up to something that should have made it into a courtroom. And particularly when you have video of someone running down the street who's supposed to be some terrible perpetrator of something, and he's running down the street away from the person accusing him. I don't think anybody's ever seen that before in a case. There's also a really good video timeline of almost everything that would show where everybody was, timestamps from text messages, all sorts of evidence that indicate that this was probably a case that shouldn't have made it into a courtroom. Yet it did make it into a courtroom. And the question is, does that represent a change in policy in the Manhattan DA's office from what we saw under Robert Morgenthau and Cyrus Vance? And Cyrus Vance is no right-wing, nut that doesn't care about domestic violence issues. He's a progressive prosecutor. He brought down Harvey Weinstein. But I do think something's going on because the Kevin Porter case involves someone who is saying and said on an interview on national television that she had some major problems with the Manhattan DA's office. And
so you're saying that what they are alleging, what he's being charged with, is absolutely, positively, 100% completely false. And if you're saying that, that means those charges should be dropped.
Absolutely. That is why one of them have been dropped already. And they've already offered this man a plea deal of no jail time that they didn't report. But they have it out in the general public and to the media that he's still facing 2 charges. There's so much information that they're withholding because they are refusing to take accountability for their actions and manipulating this entire case to catapult their own injustice.
So that was Kaiser Gundersack, who was going out with Kevin Porter, who was arrested for assault and is being prosecuted by the Manhattan DA's office. The entire interview, all of this, I will link down below in the description. But what I'm focused on is this a change? I mean, progressive prosecutors have been arguing that they don't want to go so punitive. They don't want to be arresting people for everything. They want to keep it common sense when it comes to justice reform. So is this a departure from that is the question. Because in these 3 cases, Adam Foss, who was acquitted, Kevin Porter, who has a strange situation where the person that that the Manhattan DA's office is saying he assaulted is saying that she didn't get assaulted by him and brought no charges and didn't talk to anybody. And the Manhattan DA's office took it upon themselves to bring the case forward without her direct involvement, which I know sounds extremely unusual, but that's what she's saying. And then you have Jonathan Majors. And we have all sorts of video in the Jonathan Majors case. The way I approach everything, and certainly in journalism I've done this, is I just assume everyone is lying until I see evidence that says otherwise. I'm one of those people who's taught in the journalistic tradition of assume everybody's lying. And if your mother says that the sun is shining, you pull back the shade, you believe nothing. But in the Majors case, we have so much video, so many text messages, so much timeline. You don't have to really believe anything. All you have to do really is look at the timeline, look at the videos, and use some common sense. But I think something broader is going on. I think it's pretty obvious.
It used to be that prosecutors, especially this district attorney's office under prior district attorneys, not Alvin Bragg, they would not bring a case unless they had a good faith belief that they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But I have heard from numerous people in Alvin Bragg's office, including people in the sex crimes unit and the domestic violence unit, that they just believe women and that they now have, and they use the word, an appetite for bringing cases they wouldn't bring before. And they're happy to let a jury decide just so they can, as Alvin Bragg put out a press statement after Foss was acquitted, so they can elevate the voice of survivors, which is, first of all, just utter bullshit, because the jury found there was no survivor. They were clear. They came out running after the verdict, hugging Adam Foss. Over the weekend, they were messaging Adam Foss directly, saying, what can we do to get your life back on track? We want you to be back in society doing social justice work. We cannot believe anybody brought this case against you. This was utter garbage from the start. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and what's actually really terrifying, is one of the women who's the head of the sex crimes unit, saw that Medium post, reached out to this false accuser, and started this case. So we don't even have a situation where the prosecutor is even pretending to do the prosecutor's job, which is to take police reports, start investigating, making a decision as an officer of the court, whether there is evidence, whether they believe the evidence, to look for whether there's evidence not to believe this person, and then deciding a charging decision. This started backwards. Alvin Bragg's office decided to go after Adam Foss, and they did this by initiating this case. And all of the evidence collected by Alvin Bragg's office showed one thing and one thing only, that this woman is not telling the truth. But instead of doing what a prosecutor is supposed to do, which, as I said, is to investigate and to do justice. I mean, the Supreme Court has been very clear that a prosecutor's office is not supposed to convict people. It's not supposed to try to win at all costs. The prosecutor's office, because they have all of this power and all of these resources, is supposed to do justice. And, you know, as a journalist, you really understand the concept of the narrative, right? And how the narrative is bigger than the truth and the story, because it becomes what people believe inside. And one thing about this case, which is so terrifying and should make everybody really terrified about what's happening in Alvin Bragg's office, is as the offer made in this case, I've never heard in my 25 years as a defense lawyer. This is the offer made by the DA's office.
And that is to Adam Foss.
To Adam Foss.
Got it.
Now, again, they charged him with a rape charge that had a 5-year, at least, mandatory minimum prison sentence that would have had a lifetime of sex offender registration. That was what was at stake. The offer was that they would dismiss the case entirely against Foss on 3 conditions, all of which are illegal, unethical, and unheard of. 1, that he goes into court and he admits that he actually did rape her. Right. All that achieves is making sure that Adam Foss cannot sue Alvin Bragg, which, by the way, he is doing, and we could talk about that, and also ensures that this false accuser can sue Adam Foss and win. 2, and this is terrifying, that he never showed the evidence to anyone. That he spent his whole life walking around saying, it was dismissed, but I can never prove to you that I didn't do it. And 3, that he never, quote, changed the narrative. That he never say, I am innocent. And they would have dismissed the case entirely.
Okay, and this plea bargain was offered when?
This was offered in January of this year.
Okay.
They should not be having an appetite to bring cases that are against the evidence, not supported by evidence, and simply an agenda that has a political motive that helps the DA get elected again. And that's what they're doing. And this particular prosecutor, when I asked her, how do you reconcile all of this? She said, I know this is a difficult case to win. No case should be brought by any prosecutor if that prosecutor thinks it's a difficult case to win, because what that basically means is, I don't think I have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And in this case, the evidence was beyond a reasonable doubt that this woman was lying. And they never pursued her. They let her go ahead and lie in the grand jury. They let her lie on the stand. They just took a gamble, said, okay, well, let's see what happens. And if Adam Foss gets acquitted, then no harm, no foul. But that's just not true. The man's life is utterly destroyed. Destroyed. I think a lot of people, and myself included, supported Alvin Bragg's run for DA because we thought things would be different under a black DA. We thought this person would actually give a shit about people who look like him. And in fact, it's been a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. The only people that Alvin Bragg seems to care about are his voter base, which is predominantly white and a lot of women. And he's filled his office with people who don't look like him, but people who believe women, agenda first people, not evidence-based people. And what Bragg's office has shown us by bringing a case like this is, it's not even a, do you believe men or do you believe women? They just don't believe evidence. And they don't care. What we should be worried about under Alvin Bragg's office is this prosecutor tried to strike every black person from the jury. I raised so many bats and challenges, and the things she said about them just show that all they want is to try to get a conviction at all costs. One of the jurors she tried to strike, this is what the prosecutor said about him. I don't think he's going to be able to understand the jury instructions. This is a black man with an MBA from NYU, with a job which he makes a lot of money and has a lot of responsibility. But that's what she put on the record. That's why he can't be on this jury.
Star Kevin Porter Jr. was handcuffed, arrested for a vicious physical assault against a woman in a New York hotel room. Details comes out. People were very shocked to hear. We heard that it was a cracked vertebrae, that she was abused. Kaiser Gondrzak is that WNBA player. When the story went out, Houston Rockets immediately suspended any contact with him, later traded to the Oklahoma basketball team. They cut him. He's not in the NBA. Case is going forward. Well, Kaiser Gondrzak joins us right now in an exclusive interview to talk about this because she has some concerns with regard to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And so first, Kevin Porter Jr. was initially charged with assault in the second degree, strangulation in the second degree, assault in the third degree, and since then, the assault in the second degree charge was dropped. And so set for me the scene of what happened that led to this altercation.
Yeah, I don't believe that I was physically assaulted.
One, when they say informant one, is that you?
No, it is in a recording from the supervisor acknowledging that the criminal complaint that you're reading and that was filled out was from what officers believed they thought happened at the time. And I have her.
You had a conversation with the district attorney's office. Folks, cue that up. Where, as you said, they told you that they apologized for these details being made public. Guys, go ahead and play that.
Information that was conveyed earlier at the arraignment, that no one had any consent or anything in writing from her, as she's just kind of processing all of this. And you're still releasing information that she has not given a document, no statement or anything, but you're just attaching all of this for a storyline?
Well, first of all, I completely hear you. This must be so overwhelming to see in the press what we're saying, and you're not getting as much information from us as we would like you to get. So I'm so sorry about how this.
Oh no, this isn't about us getting information about what you all have and you all releasing information to us. It's about information that you're releasing that Kaiser has not given a voice to. She has not given you a statement. She has not given you any consent to release any of her records, any of her information with her physical status.
Required to file a complaint within a certain amount of hours.
On behalf of whom?
This is why.
On behalf of
whom?
whom? And I'm asking you a question. On behalf of whom?
On behalf of the people of the state of New York. This is the job that we do.
Okay.
You're saying that he didn't punch you in the face repeatedly, that he did not strangle you, that none of those things actually happened. Then he is being wrongfully charged.
Absolutely.
So you're saying that what they are alleging, what he's being charged with, is absolutely, positively, 100% completely false. And if you're saying that, that means those charges should be dropped.
Absolutely. That is why one of them have been dropped already. And they've already offered this man a plea deal of no jail time that they didn't report. But they have it out in the general public and to the media that he's still facing 2 charges. There's so much information that they're withholding because they are refusing to take accountability for their actions and manipulating this entire case to catapult their own injustice. If you continue to play the audio, she specifically verbatimly states that because she did not talk to me, she had to bring forth some information to bring forth the elements of the case and elements of the crime against him, meaning that she cultivated her own narrative to make some type of false information to make stick to support the charges that she was bringing against Mr. Porter. That, as you can hear her say, that she never got a chance to speak with me first.
Anyway, I put that reel together just so people could see a little bit of the perspective. Obviously, these 3 cases are different. All cases are different from each other, but there's some commonalities there. To sort of have a broader look at what the Manhattan DA's office is doing and whether or not it represents a change in policy. So again, the links to these interviews in their entirety are in the description below if you want to take a deeper dive. And that's it. We'll see what happens with Jonathan Majors this week, and good luck.